Brad Whiteley is a versatile pianist, organist, and music director known for his ability to elevate any musical setting. He's toured with Regina Spektor, conducted on Broadway, and played on a Grammy-nominated track. As a jazz musician, composer, and improviser, his debut album, Pathless Land, earned a four-star DownBeat review and was named an editor's pick. He's based in the Bronx, and he also serves as a music director for Blessed Sacrament Church and Live Music Pros, balancing dynamic career across all genres. And we're looking forward to catching up today. So Brad, good to see you. How's everything?
Everything's good. And speaking of the church, I just was doing a last minute funeral this morning. I didn't know the people, but so I'm just, um, ready to have a nice interview.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy thing when you have to start your day like that. When you're doing something like that in the morning, and then what I'm sure this, weekend will be filled with some sort of improvisational gig. I mean, it's got to be kind of feel weird to navigate those two worlds. I mean, I would imagine I've never played a funeral before.
It's something you do the funeral, and then sometimes people are talking and crying, and then like you're playing either a wedding or like a happy bar. It's when you're doing this type of work, I call it maybe like functional music. I do a lot of functional music. So it could be, yeah, literally tears of sorrow in the morning and then tears of joy at night, and you're just I mean, you kind of disconnect a little bit if you don't personally know the people, which is a little sad, and you're just doing a role. But yeah, it can be a little intense.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You hear some people say, "Oh, leave your work at home." I mean, leave your work in the office space. But
Mhm.
in the type of work that you have to do, you actually have to do that. And it's because it's not all fun and
Yeah.
get in games. And have you gotten to the point where when it's in those situations, you're able to just come home and just not think about it?
I'll tell you what, if there's something going on in life with either a family or a friend who's sick or something, you know what I mean, then it can be really hard, and it could be a little more emotional and tough. But otherwise, it's just you kind of have to disconnect. And you made me think of something too that's funny. It's like the whole like retire and job. When you're doing, I mean, even I get to do a bunch of different type of music, and that's all. I don't even really teach right now, so I'm just playing all the time. Not all the greatest music that I want to, but I mean, I still get to play music every day. And this idea of even retiring, I mean, I don't know how old I can do it, but it's not even a job. It is getting to the gig, learning the music, organizing sounds. There's plenty of job aspects to it, but the actual thing that I do for a living, I'm very fortunate, is music. So yeah, this whole thing, like, I mean, I don't know if churches are still need an organist. I don't know. Hopefully I can be old and still doing that. I mean, because I am kind of thinking about you're supposed to plan for retirement, but
When I think
does
about
retirement?
retirement, I mean, the idea is for me as, someone who loves what they do, it's like it's almost depressing to not have any because
Oh, I
I
know.
actually I get down when I'm not working.
Absolutely. And music, luckily, is something that I mean, I've said with many people, music is I see why life, there's many terrible things in life. The world's always been insane out there, but we've been given music. I think Kurt Vonnegut said that that's a sign that God's smiling on the world or something, because why is music here and it exists and it's this pure thing that's just in the air that we can like continue to work on, grow with our whole lives. It's like, I mean, because I see why people get depressed sometimes. Imagine going through life and not having an outlet, or, in this modern world with everything. At least I'm saying I'm thankful to have music as
You
this
know,
constant thing.
let's backtrack a little bit. The first time I ever heard you play, I know it was about, if I had to guess, it was maybe 13, 14 years ago at Chris's Jazz Cafe in Philadelphia. Do you know who you were playing with, or do I need to name the person?
Was it John Crowley? No.
A guitarist?
13, was it, who was I playing with 13 years ago there? Oh, can you remind me? Wait, which
Sam?
Sam Raderman? Who were we playing with? Was it his?
His band.
Oh my God. Yeah, I haven't even seen, I've seen Sam once or twice in the last like 10 years. I
I
forgot
mean,
we
I
there.
don't have a relationship with him these days. But I remember hearing you play, and I remember who was in the band. It was that drummer Luke, and Michael Eaton played saxophone.
Oh
But
yeah, I forgot we played at Chris's back in the day. I remember we used to have a lot of sessions. I remember that. Yeah, because Luke the drummer had an organ randomly in Brooklyn, so we would always go over there and play. That was a while ago. Yeah. that
when
was
you're,
kids and everything when I would just go do sessions all the time. I mean, yeah, that was living the dream.
when you when you're looking back on then, because even I remember at the time, hearing you play, and we're probably around the same age or so. But even then, hearing you at the time, like I kind of there's some people you hear and you're like, oh, they're definitely going to be in this for the long, they're in it for the long term. At the time, did you feel that way?
Yeah, I don't come. I mean, my family loves music, but they're not musicians. I grew up in upstate New York, and they were always very supportive of this. And I just, since I started taking piano lessons when I was 4, and basically continued through grad school, and I just have always done music. And it's just some people struggle maybe with what they want to do, and this is what I want to do. And in the end, like I'm saying, now I kind of, with the mortgage and kids, it's like, yes, it's a lot of weddings, church. I was doing some Broadway. Like I wish I didn't take the plunge to do jazz full time, but I did want to do music full time, and I made that happen. I'm just like, how can I make this work and earn a living doing this? And I mean, I just never had a second guess to that. I mean, since I was a kid, if you asked me in high school, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a musician. So,
As
I
you
mean, I
mentioned playing on
struggled.
Broadway. Sorry, what were you saying? Sorry.
Oh, no, just I didn't struggle with that. Yeah, I just wanted to do this full time.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and as you mentioned, playing jazz and playing on Broadway, the thing is, a lot of people who work, quote unquote professional musician, they're, I don't want to, they're not mediocre or above mediocre in all genres, but like, you can do it all, but at the same time, like, there's such a high level of jazz improvisation in your playing. And what I was curious was that, because you have to do these other things, like, do you feel like maybe among the masses in the jazz world, like the people, that there is sort of this, like, I don't want to say like an invisible wall or something, but because you do all these other things you're successful at and you can play, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that maybe there's an element of some people keep the art real pure, and I'm just gonna do jazz. And maybe one thing is like the jack of all trades situation because like I mean there are specialists, in
Well,
town
there are
who do
people who
one.
do just like the weddings and like that's all they do. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, I don't want that. I actually like weddings because especially I've started music directing a lot of weddings, and I kind of get to put the list more to songs I enjoy, and it's more like alive with we're in ears, we're on a mic, so we're talking to the band, so I can add solos in, and we can just kind of extend sections, and I'm trying to keep it more like a gospel church gig, like reharmonize a little bit with the band on the fly. You can try and inject creativity into those gigs. Whereas like Broadway, you can't, you get notes if you change anything. That's a real, I mean, it has to be the exact product. So that's a
Um,
real assembly line thing, which I don't really enjoy, but it's one of the few jobs in town. So,
no,
not
I
really on
get
that
it.
scene.
If
Yeah.
you're
No, but
sorry, pal, we're having a great conversation. We keep it's okay. But what were you saying?
no,
I'm
I
sorry.
do think there is though. I see what you mean though. Yeah, there's definitely like why are you doing that stuff? But I think that's even diminishing because there are fewer gigs. So I see great jazz players all the time also showing up in Broadway. I don't think that was the case in the 80s, but like now it's like there isn't studio work. So like but the improvisational thing is nice. You can get away with that a lot at church, weddings. I call it, Black American music, the spirit. Um, is what I like. And improvisation is a big part of that. And you can kind of bring that spirit to many different gigs. So like, it's kind of jazz like, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Try and bring
You know,
to, you can't go that far with it. You know what I mean? You can't just go like free jazz at the cocktail hour
it
completely.
has its
No.
constraints.
Yes. Within limits, you can actually try and be creative.
Um,
Whatever.
but I love what you do as an improviser. So if someone were to say to you, like, oh, okay, I have a wedding gig, it's 5 hours for $1,000, or you can come play at a club, for 4 hours for 800. Like, are you at and are you at the point now where you could like kind of like, what do you think you would do in that situation? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, now with, post kids, I have kids.
Yeah.
And mortgage, and it's really hard to turn down $1,000, $1,200 wedding gig. because the club gig, if it paid 800, I could get away with that.
Yeah,
But
if it
often
paid 800.
the artistic gig, if it pays 200, and I hate to make it about money all the time, but it's a capitalist society, and I have to earn that money every month. You know what I mean? It's like I wish, yeah, I wish, but basically, like Sunday nights through Friday nights in the season, I can take artistic gigs. I mean, I play with this gospel group that was just nominated for a Roots Gospel Grammy, the Harlem Gospel Travelers, and I love them. But I mean, it's a low budget, it's labor of love kind of. I'm playing with them next Friday in Maryland, or 2 Fridays or something. And I love to be able to fit their gigs in. And it's sad, but I have to sub out often because I literally just can't afford it, and I'm at a pretty good balance now. I feel like the pandemic really shut everything down, and it took me a while to, like, some people coasted through. I didn't coast through very well, and like now I feel like I'm back in several different interesting groups and stuff is happening. And yeah, that's another reason with someone like Sam Raderman, with the pandemic in there, that feels like 2 decades ago. You know what I mean? It's like that just time like stopped. I'm like, wow, that's so far back.
Yeah, we all lost 3 years when you really think
I know. Yeah.
it's and it was, do you remember your first gig post-pandemic, what it was like when things started opening up? Because I remember, I just played like a little outdoor thing and we were all wearing masks, and I think I was about, a ball of anxiety just because this was around June 2020. But do you remember yours?
Yeah, well, I can't actually remember because I mean, the funny when it shut down, I remember it's Friday the 13th, and I was doing rehearsals for Broadway that day, and that got canceled. I went in a train to play a gig on that Friday night in Midtown, and it was awkward. That was like because Thursday I think they shut down Broadway, and then Friday I actually went in on the train. No one was wearing masks yet, and I played a gig. I could tell it was really weird. And then the next
What
day I
type
heard
of gig was it?
that was just at like Fine and Rare, one of the whatever it used to be called, just with the singer. I used to play every Friday, and then the next day I went to the Wayfield Garden up here with the family, and I heard that the Catholic Church was canceling all masses, and I was like, "Oh my, I can't believe!" So I got these supposedly safe gigs, like I was doing a Broadway thing, and then the church, and I could not believe they were canceled. And now going back out, I was very nervous too. It was outside of a restaurant in Midtown. I played outside because they had the dining thing set up. It was in June-ish, probably that summer, and yeah, so super nervous. And the main reason I was nervous, extra nervous, was because I had a very young son at home who was just crawling. So that made it a lot more intense. I didn't want to, you know what I mean? Just because if it was just like my wife and I still would have been taking it seriously, but it wouldn't have been. But just with that little, really little kid, and my daughter was also maybe 3 or 4 at that time. So I was like, I don't know. It was very stressful. But yeah, I was playing outside, drove through Times Square. There were nobody was out. That for that first gig in June, it was really a memory. Yeah,
It was
terrible.
crazy.
It was crazy.
Musicians were playing outside a lot in that time
Mhm.
in New York.
Yeah,
The restaurant, I
yeah.
mean, if people don't know, like the restaurant, like there were no parking spots, so there were just tables and musicians just played outside.
Oh, that's true. People might not know. Yeah, that was what New York did. It just turned into like street dining and sidewalk dining.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'd also like to talk to you about, getting 4 stars in DownBeat, um, which is quite an accomplishment. DownBeat is such a prestigious publication and everything. The highest you can get is 5 stars, I believe, or something, right?
Yeah. That turned out that was a good opportunity for me because a friend of mine, Cameron Mizell, was working for his friend Mike Shields, who was starting a label called Destiny Records, which I appeared as a sideman on several good albums on. You should check that out, Destiny Records. And I got put 2 albums out. And the first one did well. It had some good reviews, and they were able to help out with publicity in the radio play, and it still gets some radio play to this day. So very thankful basically for Destiny helping make that happen. Because that was nice. That was like an editor's pick and everything. That
When
was
that happens, do you feel like certain things happened in your career that had you not gotten those accolades, they may not have? I'm just kind of curious because I talk to people like who have been in competitions and some of them, will say it helps to a certain extent, but I'm just kind of curious what your perspective is on getting, that accolade.
I mean, back in those days too, I did 2 album cycles touring with Regina Spektor. So we did a lot of international touring. And I kind of was going out on the road a lot. And then I feel like kind of dropped the ball a little bit because I will say, I know you lead a lot of gigs, and especially since the pandemic, I've been such a sideman, and I absolutely respect what it takes to lead gigs. It's really difficult to book that stuff. It's a lot of work on the front end and making sure the music's cool and organizing everything. It's a lot of work. And I've been taking kind of like an easier road. Like I literally haven't booked a leader gig since like the February before the pandemic. I literally have just been in a rut
Well,
since then.
I'm gonna now that we're having this conversation, I think I may have called you for a gig before in the past, but maybe it didn't line up or something. But I don't remember exactly. But I'm gonna after once I get something that I can play with an organ, like I'm definitely gonna ask you, 100% to do it.
Oh,
And
I would love
I
to.
hope
Sure.
you have a car, right?
Oh yeah, that's been part of the deal for if you're gonna do those wedding gigs and stuff. Yeah, you got to be
I
able to get
figured
there
I'd
anyway.
ask you. Like, yeah, you got it, because I mostly been playing in Jersey the last, year and a half. I haven't done a gig in the city in like probably like almost 2 years. No, not 2 years, maybe a year and a half, something like that.
Yeah, once we had kids, I moved up to Riverdale, Bronx. So I was in Brooklyn forever. So this was like moving to Canada to move up here. But actually, it's a really great neighborhood. I love it. And getting to Jersey, I'm right by the George Washington Bridge.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
getting to Jersey is easy. Getting to Connecticut, getting upstate's easy from here. So
I know exactly where you are because I drive up that way to go to Long Island sometimes.
you go around, right? And then over and then down. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Go
live right on the Henry Parkway.
right, exactly. That's a great place to be.
Well, it's easy to get downtown for gigs too. I'm like literally turns into the West Side Highway. So, or I can take the one train. I mean, it was, you get older and then, like I said, you have kids, and I'm like, how am I going to make this work? It was like threading a needle, you know what I mean? To still be in the city, have a family. It's a lot. And I'm thankful to be able to do it.
Um, is your wife in the arts as well?
She is. So before she used to sing in a couple professional choirs, and her name's Erica Lloyd. She has a couple albums out. We used to have a band together too. She's a singer and she plays piano. And so she used to sing in this professional choir, Choral Chameleon, which is also really cool. I used to accompany them quite a bit with our friend Vince Peterson. And she used to sing we met at college actually. So we go way back. She was studying early music. She used to sing in a Renaissance quartet with lute. So she's toned down the touring and performing since we've had kids, but she does have a large voice and piano studio up here. That's another good thing.
Takes a
Riverdale
lot of
lots of kids.
lessons.
So she teaches a bunch. So yeah, but we're both basically freelance. So, you know, it's a challenge. We're making it work.
So you said like now at the point though you're able to just really just play and not have to teach, which is, you know,
The closest thing to teaching is I do classes during the week, during the weekdays, to like 1 to 3 days a week. For Jazz at Lincoln Center called Weebop. It's this really fun program for literally 6-month-old to like 5-year-old kids. It's like a music appreciation, but we
wait,
teach them
how old? Oh,
6 months to like 4 years old. So
oh
like
my God.
pre-K age, you know what I mean? But the kids, it's a real fun music appreciation class. And the main reason I really enjoy doing it, another reason, is there's a band of the fourth and eighth week of each like semester or whatever. But the rest of it, it's just solo piano and a teacher. So I get to work on stride. You know what I mean? It's just solo piano practice basically. So I've really enjoyed that, yeah, because I've started playing some trad jazz now too, to be jack of all trades. I play with Ethan Eubanks, and it's really been fun to get back into like stride,
Hmm.
because that is really just you use so much, you know what I mean? It's all the tenths. It's just so much of the piano. You know what I mean? There's just so much chops in there to be able to do that stuff. And I've really been enjoying that. So Weebop is, I'm saying, kind of educational, kind of.
I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm here to see Brad. I'm not here for the I'm not
Is Mr. Brad here? Yeah.
Can you imagine that? That would be
Oh,
fun.
that would be a little awkward. Yeah, I don't know. I think
No,
be
I'm
a
not
little.
gonna do it. That was
I know, of course, that'd be funny. But yeah, no, I used to teach lessons. I used to teach for the piano school in New York, and I'm not against teaching lessons.
yeah.
And I didn't really play the university game. University game's tough because you gotta be like an assistant, adjunct, visiting associate professor for a long time. And I was maybe going to teach one course at Brooklyn College for jazz theory, but I looked like if you teach how many hours it takes to first make a syllabus and then all the grading, I looked at what it paid for the semester, and I was like, ooh.
I
But
had
I
to
mean,
make 8 syllabuses, and this is before Chat GBT came out. So
mhm. Oh, I know nowadays you could probably streamlined that process a
Yeah,
lot.
absolutely. But I remember I got hired and I had like, I think 2 weeks to make 8 syllabuses. It was just like a nightmare, you know?
Because once you have that and you have your class down, it's pretty easy. But getting in for like very low pay is just like wow, it's a lot up front. So you do teach at college, so I mean like or that level.
Yeah, I mean, it took like 10 years to get that job after getting a master's, and I had gotten other opportunities prior, but they were just, they were misleading, and that's another, I could tell you about it another time. But it's just, those jobs are so few that the people
It's
who get them just stay forever.
of course. No, I mean it's a way to, make a living and you get to deal with music and like students especially that want to be doing music. That's great. That's a, that would be wonderful. But I do also have a master's degree and I didn't really pursue teaching, so
Where'd you get your master's from?
Indiana University in Bloomington.
Ah,
Yeah.
jazz.
Jazz studies and a minor in classical piano.
Who's the director in Indiana? The name always just leaves my
Well, when
brain.
I was there, it was David Baker.
David Baker.
Yeah, I got to study with David Baker and play in his band and his small group and stuff. And that was a great experience. Yeah. I really, so I grew up in upstate New York and I moved to Indiana when I was 16. So I went to 2 years of high school there and I ended up just going to a private college because I was already studying with the piano instructor there at DePaul University. He got me a full scholarship. Then I was like, I really want to go to New York. So I
Did you get
put
to
in
play with
money.
Bobby Broom at all?
No, no, DePaul is in Greencastle, Indiana, by the way, not DePaul in
Oh,
yeah, no, everyone's confused. It's this little private college that no one's ever heard of. Yeah. But it was an okay music school and it was fun. I mean, I think I learned a lot, but I sent in money to go to Manhattan School of Music. I was gonna go there. But then I kind of looked at the tuition and I said, for some reason, Indiana University is in state right here. I'm a resident. I get to go for in-state tuition. I just I went and I'm thankful I went because I think it was beneficial for me. It's a great school. I loved Bloomington. It's a great little town.
I've been to Bloomington.
Yeah, it's a fun little town. It was great for college. So
College town.
anyway, and I ended up coming to New York anyway later. But I always think, yeah, maybe I should have come to New York when I was 22. I don't know. I came when I was like 26.
Jazz school, you're only going to go, I feel like you can go to jazz school, but like jazz school, it really gets you on the journey maybe 25%. And that's, the max probably. The other 75% is what you do on your own as far as practicing and listening and pursuing the art. If that
I
makes
think it's just a place. It's just a time where you can be really focused on music with loans, or you know what I mean, where you really can hopefully practice a lot. And I always viewed it too as like jazz piano is just advanced harmony, probably guitar same. You know what I mean? It's like it's really applicable to many things, and and
Oh,
and, and
100%.
they make it a system too, which is not like real world. Like here's this system. David Baker especially has this system for how to create bebop lines but studying those advanced upper harmonic chords and you know what I mean all the voicings and voice leading and like all that is just applicable just to being a musician. So that's how I always took music school and jazz. It's like ear training, harmonic training.
Could not agree with you more. Jazz and classical are can let you, like, those are the seeds you plant, and then like the trees are just, all the other styles of music you could just automatically teach yourself how to do in a sense.
Because theoretically, yes, if you've done classical, then you have the techniques through the years of the keyboard, and then you get the ears from the harmony, and you combine that, and then you can just go, yeah, whatever different directions.
Yeah, no, I'm a big advocate of, pursuing both. Not, you can't be 100% in both, but like, like I've done classical guitar for a long time, mostly jazz, it's just
Mm-hmm.
technique.
Absolutely. I played classical for many years, and I think it underlines, I mean, it classical music evolved with the keyboard, you know what I mean? From harpsichord and the clavichords into early forte pianos, and then you get to 20th century stuff, and it's really using the full range of the grand piano. So
When you started playing jazz organ, like, we're walking bass lines, that sort of thing, did someone like kind of like ask you like, oh, do you think you could play organ? Like, because that's what happens with a lot of people. Like, someone just gets like, ask them, or were you already doing it on your own? at that point?
I think I went in and I felt a little overconfident because I've been playing like a Hammond organ in church since I had a job when I was 16 at a church playing organ. So I was like, oh, I got Hammond down. And then I remember I went to see Dr. Lonnie, and I wish I could remember
Oh,
James Carter, and I saw him at Iridium, and he played a ballad, Dr. Lonnie Smith, yeah. And it just started pianissimo, and by the end, the room was shaking. Just he had such a mastery of that instrument. That moment, I don't remember what ballad he was playing, which is a real sad part. But anyway, he played this ballad and it just literally blew me away. So since then, I'm like, I'm going to work on organ. So then I remember I was playing a friend, Joel Kelsey, at school, was like, you might want to transcribe some bass lines because I was faking it. You know what I mean? Then I realized, oh, so I did start transcribing some bass lines. And then I listened to organists and transcribed their bass lines because organ's a little different the way it functions than an acoustic bass. But yeah, at first I'm like, this is so easy, man. And then I took a bassist to tell me, listening to me play, it's like, I think you really need to transcribe some bass lines. I was like,
do you
yeah,
think
so that's
Joey
when I
D's
realized.
bass lines were kind of like as close to like what an upright player might? I mean, or is that we
Blues?
just Joey D, Joey DeFranco?
Yeah. No, I mean, bass line, if you're playing enough blues, there are certain ways to get through it. You know what I mean? Like that are gonna work. And I just mean, I guess because of the tone of the
Mhm.
organ, and it has the fold back at the bottom octave. It I think it's I don't know, it's just basically I will say this too about organ. It's when I play a gig with a bassist, you should always be this intense, but when there's a organ, you got to be there the whole time. It's the role of the bassist. Leading through the bridge, helping through the form, like you got to be there all the time. And I think it's helped my piano playing because you have to be that intense. But piano, if I'm on a gig and I hate everyone, it's terrible to pull out the phone with the chords. But if I'm
That's what
playing,
it is,
if they're the bassist, I'm like, oh, I know that. If they know it, I can just hear it. But if I'm playing organ, I have to pull it out because the whole thing falls apart. So the organ is just you are the bass, and then everything else is just icing on the cake. You know what I mean? If you're soloing and using all the stops and like doing shout choruses, but your function is bass. So anyway, that's what.
Yeah, there's this one Dr. Lonnie solo he plays on. Do you know the Lou Donaldson album Midnight Creeper?
Mm-hmm.
That
Oh yeah.
solo he plays on Bag of Jewels. It's like my
Yeah.
favorite organ solo now. Like I just,
He
you
has
know,
this. He has one riff on I think one cylinder. I think from the same album. That is just I've repeated it because it's just the perfect blues riff. It's only like 5 seconds long. I'm telling you, but it's so perfectly in the pocket.
I can't. I know how you love. One cylinder. That's
Oh yeah,
we're gonna
dude.
have
I
to
mean,
play when we do
one
a gig.
chord
We have to
jam.
play that. We have to play
That's a
that.
classic one chord jam. Yeah, I think. Wait, is that the album with Idris before he was Idris? It's Leo Morris on drums before he changed his name.
Yeah, and well, the one cylinder is it's not on Midnight Creeper, but it's like
Oh, Alligator Boogaloo. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
have that vinyl.
Well, we're
Hmm.
gonna have to play that when we play a gig.
Yeah. Well, I have one funny story about Dr. Lonnie. I used to play at Smoke about Lou Donaldson. I don't know how funny this is, but I used to kind of play drums. So I would play Tuesdays at Smoke late night after Mike Ledon, who I used to study with. I used to study piano and organ with Mike Ledon. But anyway, Lawrence Leathers, rest in peace, was our drummer, but he didn't show up
Oh,
sometimes. So Judd, I think Judd Nielsen was there. So he was like, I'll play organ. I'm like, okay, I'll go play drums. So we're trying to play a funk song. And then who walks right 3 feet in front of that in the old Smoke in front of the stage? It's Lou Donaldson. And I'm playing a funk beat and it's lame. He looks over and he like shakes his head and then keeps walking.
I believe it.
That's the last time I played drums. I never
Yeah,
done anything now. I'm just like, no, I don't play drums. And anyway,
you
that's a,
retired after that. No, Brad, this has been fantastic. I mean, thanks so much for talking with me. And I know we'll talk after the podcast, and we'll talk logistics about getting the chance to work together because I do want
I
to
would
work
love
together.
it. Yeah, anytime. Thanks for doing this podcast too. You're really interviewing just a wide range of musicians and it's great. And you're really like doing a lot of people quickly. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to 1,000. That's the goal.
Wow. Incredible.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate everything.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.